Hello and happy Monday. Welcome to Math 2. So the way that we are going to split up the curriculum for this year is that the first semester here we're going to do review. We're going to look at a lot of stuff that we did in Math 1 and make sure that we remember it, we have a good foundation of it, and then move into some of the Math 2 content. And then when second semester comes and we're really diving into it, we have a good foundational understanding of all the things that we need to know. So what I want to do today is the first page of our notes together, going over coordinate planes and how to plot points and understanding the x and the y-axis, so that when we continue to move into putting shapes on a coordinate plane and moving them and solving for them and getting further into that, we have a really good foundational understanding of how we graph. So we're going back to the basics today, and we'll just kind of keep moving up and building on that. And I want to make sure that your notebook looks exactly like my notebook, because if we ever do go back to school, I want us to be on the same page, literally. So we will keep an interactive notebook just like I talked about on Thursday in our syllabus, and I want you to make sure that it's up to date. So whenever I upload these videos and these notes and the attachments, I will upload blanks of everything that I write on, so you can use that to glue into your notebook, or you can just handwrite everything in your notebook. You can make your own graphic organizers, but I will also upload filled in versions that you can just print off and put directly in your notebook if you aren't the best writer. But I will say, if you're not going to be taking the notes, you need to be watching the videos while I take the notes. So that you're not just printing it, gluing it in, and not watching the video and not taking the notes, because that's not going to benefit you at all. Keep in mind, everything is being graded just like if you were in school. So you need to make sure that you're understanding this. It's a lot of personal responsibility, but you can do it. So I'm going to move the camera now to my notebook and explain how to set that up and today's notes. Okay, so like I said, the first semester here is going to be more of a review of content to build up. And then once we get to second semester, we'll focus more on some of the harder content. We've got plenty of time. This is usually just one semester, and we've got 2 to do it online, so I'm not rushing us at all. What I want you to do is make sure that the first 2 pages are blank for your table of contents. So I'm going to leave this and the next page blank for room for the table of contents. I don't think we'll need that much, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. So once you flip to the 3rd page in your notebook, this is where I want you to take your first page of notes. So if at any point you need to pause the video because I'm going too fast, please do so. Again, this will be the very first page of your notes, and it is the coordinate plane. So if you need to pause it, write this title down, write this definition down. You have blank copies of these if you want to print them out, or if you just want to draw a graph, you can do that as well. But I'm going to continue going. So a coordinate plane is just a system that specifies each point in the plane by a set of numbered coordinates. So you'll see points on a graph labeled like this. The x comes first, the y comes second, just like in the alphabet. So what I want to do first is look at the x-axis. So when you're looking at a graph, and you can just draw this anywhere, somewhere in the middle, but your x-axis is a horizontal line, and all of the x values that go through that x-axis are the vertical lines, which can be a little confusing. But horizontal lines go side to side, like when the sun is setting over the horizon, right? So the x-axis does cut horizontally, but all of the values or the numbers on the x-axis are represented with vertical lines. So I'm going to write axis beside this. So that's my x-axis, right? What I want you to write up top is VUX. We talked about this last year, but VUX is just an abbreviation that's going to help us remember some important things about the x-axis. So it is vertical lines It is an undefined slope and it crosses the x-axis. So those are some really important things to remember about the x-axis. If I wanted to say, where is 2 on the x-axis? Right, well, let's make this the center, which is called the origin. I'll write that down in a second. So if this is my origin, whenever you start on the origin, you are at 0, 0. You always have to have 2 numbers when you're talking about anything in the coordinate plane. So 0, 0. If I want to move on the x-axis to 2, I would go 1, 2. You move in intervals of the lines. So right here, this line is x equals 2. Right, that is the value of 2 on the x-axis. So remember, it is a vertical line, it has an undefined slope, and it crosses the x-axis. That is how numbers on the x-axis should look. If I were to say, okay, what about negative 2? Okay, well, if this is 0, we know that anything going to the right is positive numbers, and anything to the left is negative numbers. So I need to go to the left side 2 spaces. 1, 2. This would be negative 2. So this would be x equals negative 2. If you ever get x equals a number, that is going to be a line. What type of line? A vertical line, every time. If you ever get an ordered pair, where one of your numbers is x and one of your numbers is y, that is a dot. Okay, that is a specific point, just like it says up here. A coordinate gives you a specific point on this graph. So this point right here is known as 0, 0. Okay, that's called the origin. Where the x-axis crosses the y-axis is the origin. Okay, that's the dead center of your graph. So we can see the x-axis right here, and we can see numbers on this x-axis. We can see x is 1, x is 2, x is 3. So these are values on this x-axis represented as vertical lines that go through the x-axis. Well, where does this x-axis cross the y-axis? Right here in the middle. So let's move down to this coordinate plane down here and draw all the stuff pertaining to the y-axis. So I'm going to do my y-axis in a different color. If you know anything about me, I love colors in my notebook. So the y-axis cuts right down the middle vertically. So this is the y-axis. Okay? And we can say right here is the middle. So that's where the x-axis would cross the y-axis. Right? That's what we just set up here. When the x-axis and the y-axis cross, that middle dot is your origin. So to help us remember stuff about our y values, we're going to write HOY over here. Okay? H-O-Y. So we have HOY and bucks. Again, this is something that you've definitely learned before, so this will be a good review. But with numbers on the y-axis, the lines are horizontal. It has a 0 slope,
and it crosses the y-axis. So if you're talking about a number on that axis, it has to cross through that axis. It can't just run alongside it. And so I'm going to show you what that looks like. So if I said, show me where y equals 2, you can't just from this line go, okay, 1, 2, and draw a line here. Because we already said earlier, that's where x equals 2. X equals 2 crosses through the x-axis. So if I drew a line right here, that would be x equals 2. It can't be two things. It can only be one thing. So I have to look over here and say, okay, numbers on the y-axis are going to be horizontal lines. So they're going to go this way. They're going to cut through the y-axis horizontally. So I need to go ahead and turn my pencil or pen this way and start at the origin. And say, okay, 2, y equals 2, I need to go up 2 because that's positive and anything down would be negative. So I'm going to count up 2. 1, 2, and go to the second line. Right here is the line where y equals 2, right? It is a horizontal line, it has a 0 slope, and it crosses the y-axis. 0 slope just means that it's flat. We know that slope means how steep the line is. So if I were to draw a line on a graph like this, it's got a really steep slope. Imagine sledding down that hill. But if it has a 0 slope, imagine sledding across here. You'd have to push yourself, right? There's no slope to that. So it has a 0 slope, and it crosses through the y-axis. And you can do this for any number. What about if I said, where is y equals negative 3? Well, always start from your origin and go down 3. 1, 2, 3. This down here is negative 3. Y equals negative 3. Again, I'm going to write this over here to the side. Let me scoot this up. When you have y equals a number, it's going to be a line. And when you have x comma y, it's a dot. So I'm going to give you an example. Since I've been giving you examples of lines, I'm going to give you an example of a dot. What if I said plot negative 2, 4? Okay, I want you to plot that point. You have to start at the origin and move left 2, up 4. There's that point. We're going to call it A. There's point A. Okay? So how we do that is, this is my x value, this is my y value. So this comes first. So I'm going to move left 2, move up 4. We always move left or right first, up and down second, because of what axis we're talking about. So let me scoot back up here. If all of our coordinates are labeled as x comma y, you have to do them in that order. So when I give you a point on the graph, you have to move on the x-axis first, which is left and right, and then you can move on the y-axis, which is up and down. Okay, so if we look at this point, negative 2, 4, we have to move on the x-axis back 2, and then we have to move on the y-axis up 4. Anything up is positive, anything down is negative. And then on the x-axis, anything to the left is negative, and anything to the right is positive. So this page is chock full of really good information. Make sure that you wrote it all down, or you printed the copy that I have uploaded on the classroom. So again, you have your x-axis, which is vertical lines that cross through the x-axis. You have an undefined slope, which is just a completely straight line, and it crosses through the x-axis. Or you have your y-axis, which is going to give you those horizontal lines. Y equals different numbers on the y-axis. So your assignment is going to be listed below, and let me talk about that for a second. Your assignment for today is to simply plot points. So as long as you understand that the x-axis moves this way, and all of the points on that axis are vertical lines, and then the y-axis moves vertically, but all of the points on that are horizontal lines, then you'll be able to plot your points the right way. And I think you have 10 points to plot. So make sure you watch this video, you took your notes, and if you have any questions, you can set up a Zoom with me, or you can come in. I am at school today from 9 to 1. I'm at school every Monday from 9 to 1 if you ever want in-person help. But good luck on your assignment, and make sure that you submit it today for your attendance. It doesn't have to be perfect or fully completed. You have all week to finish it, but you have to submit it for attendance. Good luck, and I will see you tomorrow.